Welcome to Dark Days Radio, and we are back with another exciting episode. This one's a bit shorter than normal because this is an interview episode, but also a promotional episode because we have an exciting event coming up, which is Virtual HorrorCon 2021. I'm one of the regular hosts of Dark Days Radio. I'm Chris. I am joined by Crystal. Hello.
Hello.
And we are joined by David.
Hello.
And from and representing Virtual HorrorCon for us is Nick. Hello, Nick.
Hey, how's everyone doing?
I'm doing great. Is everyone else doing rather well?
Yes, I'm doing fine.
That's introductions done, so we're going to just quickly hop over in. Well, I don't think there's much news to talk about. I'm trying to think what releases have come out since Christmas. We've had the V5 Player's Companion come out, and I'm sure there's other releases. There's been a lot of releases that we're interested in from Cubicle 7 for both Warhammer Fantasy, Wrath and Glory, and Soulbound. People in the US, I think, are now finally getting their hard copies of Wrath and Glory, so that's really good. There's a whole list of releases also coming up from that. There are Deviant is now out to backers, which is fantastic because I had to use it as a reference for some work. I'm not going to say what that work is because the draft has only just got in.
It looks really fucking amazing. I'm not planning anything with it at the moment, as I've just talked about, I think, elsewhere.
What other interesting releases have come out? I'm trying to think. My brain's gone blank on fun releases or Kickstarters.
So Scion Dragon and Scion Masks of the Mythos is on Kickstarter currently. And Scion Mask of the Mythos is Cthulhu, the Cthulhu mythos in the Scion world.
Ooh,
and
that's cool.
What happens when you have a fallen pantheon? So I'm very excited about that.
That's quite a unique direction for Scion there. What other interesting? I mean, it's an interesting Kickstarter right now, but I have personal investment in the previous system. So currently, Iron Kingdoms RPG Requiem is out. I mean, I'm only going to say it's out because I'm a massive fan of the setting. It's a new edition of Iron Kingdoms RPG, but it's using D&D 5th edition. I'm conflicted on that because I have the previous edition and I really like
about
it.
The 5th edition.
Not going to rage. Everyone knows my feelings on it. But the point is, if you like Iron Kingdoms, you haven't got the old stuff. You're not able to get hold of the old stuff, and you like D&D, check it out anyway, because I think as far as a D&D setting is concerned, other than, say, Scarred Lands, I would say Iron Kingdoms is full of good flavour. The books that are there are going to be like the new, essentially, core book with the classes in it.
You've got the Monsternomicon is coming out as well.
Yeah, so that's your big monster book. They were famous for that back with the first edition they did back in D20. And they're doing the Witchfire Legacy, which I think is a re-examination of the Witchfire trilogy, all updated to 5th edition, which of course is a fantastic campaign, which I modified for the 2nd edition. But yeah, it's worth looking at.
I would love to look like I've got the 2nd edition with the Untamed expansion and stuff, and honestly, to me, it's like one of the best fantasy steampunk settings out there. And I'm not particularly happy about it going to 5th edition because I think,
funnily enough, I'm thinking about running it again because I've got all the books. I've got all the books.
Play it or run it.
And in fact, if people are interested in what Iron Kingdoms is, you can go back to our very, very old episodes from years ago where we interview Simon Berman about Iron Kingdoms. And we also have a recorded one-shot of Iron Kingdoms RPG where I think Mike and Chick basically play Trollkin, who are cowboys and stuff. It's weird, it's fun, it'll be great. Simon Berman is also really cool to talk about because also if you want to find another episode with him, we've got his interview where he talks about Unhallowed Metropolis, which is close to my heart and close to Crystal's heart, because we really fucking love that game. And I think it'd be good to do a one-shot of that at some point.
We definitely need to do a one-shot of that. I would love that so much.
I feel it's one of those lost gems of a game. Anyway, that's enough interesting news. I think anything else is superfluous to what we're really talking about, which is Virtual HorrorCon 2021. So let's head into the main segment now. Right, so if you're not aware, Virtual HorrorCon emerged on the scene last year in response to the worldwide pandemic of COVID-19, because obviously left, right and centre in-person conventions were not going to run. There were restrictions on how we move around in society. There are still restrictions on how we move around society, even though vaccines are coming out.
We're allowed to move.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, it's tough times, and being able to game even virtually is a great way of reaching out to friends and fellow hobbyists. So yeah, Virtual HorrorCon just came out, and then I think, let's be honest, I think it set a high standard straight away, because essentially, the guys at Gehenna Gaming, created a method, a style which ported to Onyx PathCon. They ran that using what they'd learned from Virtual HorrorCon, and then also SafeCon, so the Badana Group's Save Against FearCon, which again is an excellent charity to contribute to, and again that went really well. And of course, for all three of those events, Darker Days Radio provided games to be run, whether they were streamed games or they were participant games or panels, or we were on panels for those. So Nick, you're here to hold the banner for Virtual HorrorCon 2021. What more do you want to say about Virtual HorrorCon, which I didn't touch on, or what do you think were the highlights of last year? And what's your involvement in general?
So just touching based on last year, when you said like it really set the precedent, I was trying to go back because I was having this discussion with Ian earlier. I believe we were the first like convention to go virtual.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
So
definitely.
So to hold that little bit of a banner to be like the first post-pandemic online convention, it really meant a lot to us. But yeah, going on to this year, we've definitely have upgraded in terms of the team we have, the amount of stuff that we've set up, the structure in general. We actually have sponsors this time around. We're sponsored by DriveThruRPG and Astral, which has allowed us to reach out to more people. It's nice that the event is funded and that we're able to kind of have this more bigger audience and engagement. So, it's still similar to what last year is. We're going to have panels, which is awesome because they're free. They're on Twitch. We're going to have actual plays that people can watch. And then we also have the convention games, which were the same as last year, where you buy a ticket and you kind of sit in. And that number is only exploded because we have tons of GMs that we've sort of employed for that event there. This year, we're also offering workshops, which I think is super exciting. You get to sit down with like these industry professionals, and you kind of have these more private, more less numbered audience, and you kind of get to have this nice little talk back with these professionals, and you get to learn something that you might not have gotten to learn at like a normal convention, which honestly, that's one of my favorite parts, because I feel if you're a GM or you're not necessarily someone that just wants to go and play or even like watch the panels, you could still get something out of this convention that you normally wouldn't be able to get out of it. And it's to a great cause. Where a portion of all the proceeds are going to go to Black Girls Code and the Blind Cat Rescue and Sanctuary. So it's a great cause. 2 separate charities, amazing people. We're going to be hitting all across 3 separate Twitch channels: Gehenna Gaming, Caring Comfort Studios, and Darker Days Radio.
Yeah, I mean, we don't use our Twitch channel anywhere near enough. I think that's simply because we're busy people, and podcasting is, relatively speaking, podcasting easy to get material out on a timely thing. And I think Twitch streaming, obviously, in the last year has become has been a boom, understandably. But I mean, to get your Twitch channel out there and known, you have to produce content on a regular basis, which, of course, definitely Gehenna Gaming does for certain, and Caring Comfort Studios does as well. Whereas ours is just there because in case we do something, kind of. So it seemed a waste that it's there. It may as well contribute.
So we do something.
We do sometimes. I might actually do some trash gaming with Cyberpunk 2077 or something else at some point.
I actually think Chris and I started talking over his Twitch streaming while he was painting.
Yeah.
Actually,
we should do some more mini stuff, really.
Yeah, we should. Getting set up to do mini painting with streaming's hard, and I'm going to be honest. I've lost my mojo for painting minis. Yeah, exactly. And I've lost my mojo for painting minis right now because obviously miniature games are, I think, suffering a lot right now. So it's like,
yeah,
I'm doing more writing.
I've full on display mini stuff rather than actually painting shit for gaming.
Yeah,
just doing display stuff at the moment.
No, I was gonna say, funny enough, there's going to be a mini painting workshop as well, which is going to be great. Cool. And then I know you, Chris, you and a few other people, you're going to be on the Warhammer 40K workshop writer panel.
We're definitely going to have a Warhammer 40K panel in the works. There's a few other things to announce as well. I've got a stream game ready. I'm just locking in the details on people before I say anything more. But there will be a stream game of Wrath and Glory. There will be a stream panel about 40K, kind of like its history and how that fits in with horror gaming, because it's a very old setting at this point. But I think the panels is not only the panels, but I think workshops is going to be awesome, because I think for where I've got to in my career, and I guess Crystal, you're kind of the same with how you've progressed into where you are with your career. There's a point where going to conventions becomes less about what's new out, and it becomes more about the networking and knowing how to get into the industry.
Yep.
And
100%. Yep.
And it can be sometimes it can be quite intimidating knowing how to make that jump, and so having panels to give those hints, or also workshops to give those hints, and also workshops that explain the work process. I bet, I'm not saying that's locked in yet, but I mean, I've attended and watched Eddie Webb's workshops on production of games and the workflows for that. And it's funny, it's kind of like my life now as well, because my day job involves software engineering, which means refining the backlog, reviewing what's been done, managing what everyone's doing. It's like, this is a transferable skills I'm learning for games design now. But yeah, that's the point. You have to be to get in the industry. You have to be a master of quite a few things these days. So what other type of workshops have we got coming up then, Nick? Because I think workshops is, given it's the new thing, I think it's for this year. Are there any other particular ones you're excited about?
Depending when this episode airs,
very soon.
Very soon. I will say that I'm not going to give specifics. I'm going to say that every workshop is run by some awesome professionals, but we definitely have areas on how to GM, how to get into the industry, how to format and lay out a book.
Oh yeah.
So it's definitely something from the lone GM that's thinking about how he can get his foot in the door with some of these companies and actually get some material published, all the way to the small publishers that are like, all right, how do I actually go about publishing my book, or how do I do all this this design work that you really don't think about when you start out to write out a book. And like you said before, I think the networking aspect of it is really what makes this convention shine, because I know personally, VHC last year was my first time with Gehenna Gaming. It was like the first operation I did with them, and my connections exploded from there. And I feel like a lot of other people's it was the same. So definitely in this industry, it's really good to get some some one-on-one time, just some recognition with the people in the industry, and that goes a very far way.
I'm going to completely agree with that. It's like, I think my first convention with Darker Days Radio was probably DragonCon, a couple of months. Dragon Meet, yeah, that's in 2019. So maybe month and a half before VHC, and then I get and then I'm playing games with you, Nick, with Chris running it. I'm playing Vampire the Masquerade with the Primogen, and I did his his werewolf game with Mike as well. And this year, hopefully, fingers crossed, I'm running a couple of games as well. So I've got plans in that, and it's just one of those things that you just have to kind of, once you get that foot in the door, things suddenly start kind of, and you're willing to kind of push those connections and actually work with those connections. You start to kind of see so many things open, and it's nice to see now that all these, I'm seeing the planning behind this, and I'm seeing all these really cool panels coming out. I'm just like, I know you, and I was like, I want to listen to you speak, and I want to see how you portray your ideas and how you got into it. And it's kind of, I think, yeah, VHC was also like, it was the first con, as you say, and I still think, for me, last year VHC was the best virtual con that I took part in. And I was
we took part in a lot.
we took part in a lot of cons last
Thank
year.
you for that.
We took part in a lot.
I think VHC was the best. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to say VHC was probably the best and most well organized.
Took part in a lot because there were some smaller ones, and obviously when you're a smaller operation, even when you're a smaller physical convention, and with what's happened, moving to virtual is a lot of work. And I think a lot of the tools now to do it have improved or become more commonplace. I mean, Zoom as a platform is more stable now, I guess, than ever it was before. Has a few more features to do with streaming on the technical side, like encoding and all that stuff. But similarly, people are doing gaming either via Discord or they're doing it via like Google Meet. I think is an option. I don't know how good that is for streaming. I know some people use it to capture for streaming. I've not delved into the option of can you use Microsoft Teams, because we use that at work, and we've run some online coding training using Microsoft Teams, and that's worked really well.
I've tried, and I'm not going to make any comment about that. I've
tried. Succeeded on the training, but something that just struck me with the workshops. So Nick, all these workshops are going to be run as Zoom calls, aren't they?
Yes, the idea, I have to check the logistics of it, because the idea that it was either going to be a Zoom call or like a private YouTube link that would be like streamed live.
And because one of the new features that have like become now commonplace in all these things is the idea of breakout rooms. And I could see how that could be quite useful in those workshops to then further break down into maybe smaller discussion groups about certain aspects. So it's interesting how the technology is moving and how that will also impact online conventions. And then so obviously we've got the Twitch streams where people can come watch games, watch panels, ask questions. Will anything be going out on the YouTube channels?
So we were going to originally stream the actual plays on the YouTube channel. The only issue is that we ran into it last year at VHC, where because of the games that we were playing or some of the media we were using, they had a tendency to get copyright striked a lot. And that was a big issue leaving VHC 2020. And I'm super thankful that you all have kind of come on, to bring, even with that last, a third Twitch channel, because that's really going to allow us to have it on there and actually like we can actually export everything out, and there's not going to be like an issue where suddenly half an actual play is gone because YouTube decided it was infringing on some sort of copyright.
Yeah, exactly. So that's really interesting. Then on that side of things with technology and streaming, I was going to say something else that was interesting. And though of course, like Discord. So how's the Discord channels and for participants and attendees going to operate so that they can talk about their hobby? How's that operating this year?
So I believe we're going to be opening up more rooms in Gehenna Gaming, specifically for the convention, which is going to be awesome. I know that the vendors and all the people that are actually like exhibiting within VHC 2021 are going to have a spot that they can all discuss and talk, and kind of like these breakout rooms, like you were saying before. So there definitely is going to be a huge aspect on the community of it, which frankly that's some of my favorite part, is just seeing everyone come together. Because if you don't have the community, the convention's not really going to work. So you really need to facilitate that.
Sorry, I was going to say, one of the things that I've seen over some of the conventions that we've seen and some of the outside of the gaming community, like the science conferences that I've been to, is the ability to have the breakout rooms, and then also on things like Discord, where you can have those different channels and you can have people just drop in, and it's kind of that, oh, I want to go meet this person kind of chat, and you've got the sign, the go sign booth things and stuff like that. So it gives you that kind of more personal experience rather than just sat listening to someone on a panel. You then get to go meet that person in a more social aspect, which is one of the things that I think a lot of the online stuff has failed at. They've not had this ability to have that social interaction with the people, and I think bringing in these breakout rooms, the separate voice channels and stuff on Discord, that is a real key thing to kind of maybe bringing it more into a real feel of a convention.
I think the main thing from what I've learned about them is that if you don't have at least even dedicated X channels for each hall vendor, questions can get lost in the Discord channel, and that makes it quite difficult. So I think Nick, the plan for VHC is to kind of have that kind of granularity to make it easier for the vendors to talk to attendees and vice versa.
Yeah, not only are we going to be able to talk to the attendees, but actually something that we didn't do last year that we are doing this year is we're having kind of vendor spotlights, like these short 30-minute like showcases where the vendors can, I believe they're going to be pre-recorded. Some of them might not be, but they can come in, they can show off their product, they can answer questions while in the Twitch chat, and then they're going to be able to fall back on the Discord channel, which really kind of, I feel like it simulates a part of the convention that I know I miss going to, which is just walking like the artist alley and like the vendor halls and like David said, just talking with people. I mean, I can even remember back in PAX Unplugged, back in 2019, waiting to sign up for games and chatting up Mike about Geist because it just had entered the 2E Kickstarter then.
So Nick, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
With all of the professionals and stuff like that are going to be there, one of the things that I truly miss about being a professional at a con is networking and meeting people. Is Virtual HorrorCon going to offer that for the professionals that may be there, or people that may be interested in talking with the professionals?
So the nice thing.
Know this answer.
Well, the nice thing, we have the Gehenna Gaming Operations channel, which is kind of already developed into that ecosystem where people can talk around and whatnot. And the thing that we've kind of taken to relieve the stress off the schedule, but also facilitate that like more professionals can talk to each other, is that we have actual breaks in between the panels now. So even if you're on a bunch of panels for the day, you still have an hour, like 30 minutes to an hour, just to kind of, sit in the Zoom call after the panel is done and like talk. Because I know last year that was a big thing, especially for me, because I was producing most of that. You would want to talk to these people even for like 5 minutes, and then you're kind of forced to be like, oh, well, I got to disconnect everyone and go off to a new panel. And that's definitely That's definitely not fun to have to rush, especially when you meet people that could be, whether they're contacts in the future or it could be, your future friends, which is also great.
The thing I was going to say with about the other great thing about online conventions, I think, and why I think they're going to be here to stay, or at least elements are here to stay, is don't you just feel your fear of missing out has disappeared? Like speaking as someone stuck in old Blighty, when all the big releases for RPGs happen at fucking Gen Con, right?
That's fair.
So yeah, we missed out on all cool stuff, and then we're not actually allowed to do the stuff that we're going to do anyway. So yeah.
So
I mean, this year I got to be part of conventions that were over by you guys, where I wouldn't have been able to afford to go there if it was in person.
I want to be part of PAX now.
So are you thinking?
Go on.
Oh no! So are you thinking that even when the pandemic ends, whether it be by the end of this year or next, do you think there's still going to be that online aspect to these conventions going forward?
I think so, and
I hope so.
I think it would be a loss to remove it because I think it develops outreach and also in some respects enables conventions to be documented in a way. If you have panels recorded and out there as standard through these Twitch channels and so forth. In some respects, it reflects what's going on with teaching in higher education, because I think there's a lot of talk at universities that, at least within the UK, there's always been a big move, a lot of chat about massively online teaching. And students have always gone, oh, we want the online materials, because they don't go to lectures because they're lazy assholes. And I can say that these days now because I'm far enough away from my undergraduate days. But the point is that they wanted the online material, and now they're complaining that all the material is online and they can't get in-person teaching. But the point is that I think a lot of the universities and academics are saying is that blended teaching, so where you've got both online and offline, so that it frees up more space in some respects, is here to stay and will be an aspect going forward. So I think we're going to see a lot more of this with regards to both teaching and conventions.
I'm going to fully respect that on both points, because I've done a lot of online teaching through. I'm not yet part of a university teaching scheme. I will be there within the next couple of years. I'll get my doctorate next year. But on the convention side, it's like last year, if VHC hadn't happened, me and Chris wouldn't have been part of the American convention scene. And then later in the year, we had a couple of conventions in the UK that Crystal, I know you were part of, and I think Mike was part of some of them as well. So it allowed us to kind of, again, as you were saying, Chris, broaden those horizons and have people from different countries who would never have been able to get to these conventions.
I think
part of these conventions and provide a voice beyond where they'd usually provide a voice. So I would love to go to PAX and things like this and Gen Con and stuff. I don't have the money for that. I can't afford to go to America for a convention for a week. So having that ability for me to kind of pop in and run games through the online side of it and then make those connections on that side, I think as someone who's who's now getting into the writing and development side of it, is really, really helpful.
Interesting thing actually to build on that. To build on that is was it for PAX, for the one with the video we did for PAX? We also had Pete on that one, didn't we? And Pete's in Australia.
Yeah.
So
I was hoping, like Pete did mention that he was going to try and join this today, and he's not joined in.
Yeah. So what else is
I would love to see Pete
to highlight? I mean, with virtual online conventions, or with VHC in particular.
They're eggs.
I really want to spoil some stuff about the schedule.
You're right.
I just don't know.
I have no idea what the schedule is.
Actually, here there is something that's confirmed. That's been confirmed. It just hasn't been like overtly produced. One of the actual plays that's going to be on there. So the reason why tonight, Mike isn't with us is because he's playing in part 3 of the Contagion Chronicles that we've been doing over Gehenna, and the finale, the kind of culmination of all that, will be the first highlight game, spotlight game that kicks off VHC on that Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. So that I'm super excited for.
Sweet.
It's pretty neat. Another thing I'm actually quite happy that I bagged for us for VHC is if you listen to Dark Days Radio and you actually pay attention to our show notes, you'll notice that we are very lucky. We're always very grateful for the fact that our bumpers, our intro outro music, is kindly allowed by Occam's Laser, who is a UK-based music artist who does a lot of synthwave based music, fantastic stuff. And I got sent, obviously, through Ask for the Press Pack, because I was like, yeah, of course, Dark Days Radio will promote this. And it made me think, hold on a minute, do you want to reach a wider audience? So we will actually have some, music. We have access to music to use as little bumpers for VHC, thanks to Occam's Laser, which is pretty bloody rad. Because again, some of his previous albums, which right now you can buy on Bandcamp, and I believe there's potentially a significant discount going on because the new album is out, is a very kind of 80s kind of horror, that kind of John Carpenter kind of feel to it. So
it's Stranger Things. It's Stranger Things music.
It's the
theme.
That's why I
said John Carpenter. It's the classic Halloween type stuff, and Assault on Precinct 13.
They are also on Spotify if you would like a heads up on what type of music they do.
Indeed. So that's cool. Is there anything else that we can say at this point about who have we got up as vendors right now already that are sponsoring Virtual HorrorCon? So obviously we've got Onyx Path is on there. We've got is that
Drive-Thru RPG?
I was trying to read the heroes. We've got Onyx Path. We've got, is it
Astral's one.
What is it? It's, I can't read the first word because the font. Damn it! For something Enterprise, is it?
I'm going to butcher this word. Vara Enterprises. I believe I was trying to. Honestly, unfortunately, I don't know too much about them. I know that if Mark or Ian was here, they probably could offer a bigger explanation. But they've released a handful of products, and they actually have a spotlight panel where they're going to be going over their new products and stuff coming out soon. So I'm definitely going to tune into that just to kind of get a feel for them.
They've got quite a few like kind of horror RPG settings. I've not heard of them before, so that's new to me. Then we've got under Champions. We've got Black Void. We've got Helgas, who are obviously behind Cult Divinity Lost, which is a fantastic game, which I need to run more of. And then we've got a whole list of other artists and makers, and there's a big, if you go on the website, if you go on Virtual HorrorCon right now, there's like a ribbon that you can go across. You can find the other, like whether podcasts or streamers and so forth, who are participating with Virtual HorrorCon. So I'm sure that list of vendors is going to grow as more things come in and are confirmed. We've also got Savage Sparrow Studios, which again I've not heard of before, and I'm sorry for my ignorance, but I'm glad I'm learning about them by going on the website. We can find out a bit more about them if I click the FAQ. Who are they? They are an independent clothing line inspired by anime, geek, and gaming culture. That's awesome. I was actually just talking to Selena, who designed the Dark Days Radio logo, to go, hey, you know where that logo is right now? It's on like one of the biggest online conventions about to occur. So that's cool. Right, is that all we... Oh, and when is Virtual HorrorCon? Of course.
So Virtual HorrorCon is going to be from February 19th straight through that weekend to the 21st. Going to be on Eastern time for all the dates that we're suggesting. I believe it starts 6 p.m. That Friday Eastern. So it's going to be awesome. Just to go over a few things I didn't get to touch on and I'm realizing if you're a big fan of just a variety of games and horror games, definitely check out the actual play channels, mainly because there's going to be a lot of like exhibitions of games that I feel like a lot of people, it's either fallen off their radar or maybe they just haven't had a chance to play. A lot of Onyx Path's new stuff, like they came from Beyond the Grave. We have West Horse Opera, which I believe is a new product that just released in the past couple months. We're also going to get a preview of Zweihander, Flames of Freedom, which to me, that's actually my most anticipated game of 2021 for in the tabletop scene. I love anything that's like revolutionary. We also have Cult. We have the creator of Morkborg as well is going to be running an actual play.
Cool.
That's awesome.
That was actually going to be one of my questions, like kind of what games can we expect through Virtual Lockhorn? Obviously, we know that the main games like The World of Darkness, Chronicles of Darkness, Cult, and stuff like that. Are there any, as you said, you've got some of the smaller ones in there. What other games can we expect?
So you can expect everything from, like I said, the big ones. Like we have a couple of E5 games. We also have, I believe, one D&D 5e game as well. But even to some of the more obscure ones, like we have Monster Hearts, we have Bluebeard's Bride. I think Magpie's actually going to be running that as well. Black Void, which I guess I would I don't know where you would consider on the popularity. I know that was kind of new for a lot of people. Something that we didn't have last year was a lot of other language type games. So we're actually having a V5 game in Italian, as well as a Portuguese V5 game, and a lot for our European audience, because we want to show them some love as well. One of my favorite ones actually is that Mark is going to be running Cult, a solo game based heavily off Silent Hill. So
Excellent.
if you haven't gotten a chance to check out Helmgast Cult, I highly suggest it. And then probably my favorite that I think is like the hidden one. I don't want to say my own game because I feel like that's very vain. I don't want to give it away just yet. I know Chris has seen it. The hilarity that'll be. But we have Ben Walker's going to be running Orpheus, like old school, like World of Darkness Orpheus, which
my gosh.
which I haven't
I think
seen.
you just excited Crystal there.
So fun side tangent on Orpheus, because I back when I was doing my PhD and getting intoxicated while playing our regular games of Vampire. The Stones have no votes because the Avalanche has already started. Yes. That's anyway.
I'm going to be running some obscure Vesson stuff at some point. It's not going to be Swedish. It's not going to be based in Sweden, so
that's fun.
Yeah.
So, Crystal, are you lining up any games to run, or are you busy doing other things for Virtual Lockhorn?
Or Crystal?
Crystal.
I have not confirmed anything just yet. I'm still talking about things. I don't want to make anything promised.
Yes. Awesome.
I've not confirmed anything, but I really want to. I've said I'm going to run a Vesson game, and I really want to run it because, and my new podcast, self promotion.
Yay!
Anything Free League touches is it's gold.
Yeah,
I do have to ask, being a fan of the show, as well as of Canada Gaming, is there going to be any Palladium? I know this is just a joke. Palladium rant.
You need to talk to Mike or Chig about that one. That's a hard question that I am not in the position to answer. I've never even looked at Palladium book. It just sounds like
probably for the best.
The one thing it would have to be something for next year, and I would need to put the effort to actually read the rules and get into. And it's because I think they bring out a true second edition to is Slay Industries, because it's gonzo kind of insane gothic punk post-apocalyptic nonsense. Slay Industries would be a fun one to see.
I still want Unhallowed Metropolis.
Unhallowed Metropolis, I would love to run again. I need to just think hard on the scenario. It's such a good books. Actually, it's that's another completely different conversation. Right. So I think we've talked enough about Virtual HorrorCon. I think we can slide into stuff that is, tangentially related about stuff, just so we can do some other content for this episode, just briefly. So first of all, V5 Players Companion. How does everyone feel about it? What's the highlights on this?
I'm going to back out. I've not read it.
Oh, the coterie merits. Love them.
Yeah. I was reading a review of it recently of the V5 Players Companion, and I think, I hadn't thought too hard about it, but myself personally, but I think they nailed it right, which is the updates of the clans in there, in particular the Ravnos, is superb because it retains the core inherent traits about them as being this itinerant clan, which, and by being itinerant, it tends to be, get involved with particular groups of people, but it's no longer for want of a better word, it's no longer the Roma, or insert word that we don't use anymore, clan. And I am so glad about that. I really do like the updates on that. And also the other thing it confirmed was, I'm glad about the idea of, we don't have super special snowflake discipline trees anymore. It's like, oh, guess what? Flesh crafting is just amalgams, thank God. And the same with the Ravnos and so forth. So I'm really happy about that. Clan merits, Nick, what stood out the most there then? What did you really go wow, that just encapsulate why that edition is amazing?
Well, come back to me in just a second, because I'm actually trying to track it down, because there's one specific merit I did want to talk about that I think has huge implications when playing. So just give me 1 minute. I'm sorry.
Okay. Crystal, was there anything that got you super excited out of the book?
So I think overall, addressing these 3 specific clans, it was a good idea for them to have separate from everything else, because these 3 clans tend to be a make or break for a lot of people when it comes to the setting, and specifically the different sects that they're involved in. So I think the addressing of these clans and moving away from a lot of the toxic and no longer acceptable stereotypes for all of them, actually, was a pretty good way to do. This was a pretty good way to address that, and then make it optional for people if they want to run them in their games or not. So I do like the logistic way that they approached that. And I do like the way that they outlined the clans. I do want to see more eventually, but that's because out of all 3 of them, 2 of these I absolutely love. And one of them I enjoy. However, I've stayed away from because of the negative cultural aspects surrounding that specific clan. So I've kind of stayed away from that one, but I'm now it's a little bit more inviting for me to be able to come in and okay, now I want more. Please give me more. I love that stuff.
I was going to say, I am very much new to Vampire the Masquerade. Just I don't know. Well, I say new. I've played it, I think, maybe for the last 4 or 5 years since joining Darker Days Radio and stuff. And I've heard of these other clans, and I've never really delved into the backstory behind it. So
my very first vampire character,
as someone who is a new player, how can you kind of explain? Obviously, without going into vast amounts of detail and backlore and actually doing a full delve into a thing about it. Explain what these 3 new clans are to a new player, and kind of how they work without being what they were. Obviously, I know a little about what they were, and we'll not look into that because obviously that's a touchy subject. So.
Crystal, do you wanna go with this? Because I think yeah, you seem to have a history with it.
Who are these new three and what are they? Is basically kind of the question.
Yeah. So the Salubri are like vampires who are kind of in I'm gonna go with V5 and we're gonna forget that the other past happened.
Go with V5 and forget the past.
So
involved. Let's be nice.
Yeah. So the Salubri are vampires that. So okay. So Salubri are like vampires who are trying to seek some sort of redemption. They have a sort of quality about them that is healing for a whole bunch of different aspects for vampires and mortals. They do have a third eye. They tend to be outcast because of that. The Ravnos are like tricksters, and they like to create illusions or distract, like for distraction and stuff like that. And then the Tzimisce do like the whole shape shifting, but with their own skin and their own bodies. So it's very, they're still a body horror clan, which I appreciate. They haven't taken that away. Yeah, similar.
I think the interesting things are as well with that is I think the Ravnos compared to their original, their scope of being tricksters is greatly expanded.
Yep.
And I think the important thing about that is to put it in a way, in an understanding for other people, is they've been decamped from the ethnic group that they were originally kind of basically the group that they were assigned to, in that rather hokey, clumsy, bigoted way. And the reason why I'm really happy about that work that's been done on them for that reason is it gives me a lot of confidence with the work that's more than likely proceeding right now on designing Werewolf 5th edition. Because again, you've got many of the same issues, if not more, with many of the tribes there. So that's really cool. And then with the Tzimisce, I think what's happened, what they've done there is interesting because by making, because I can't remember what's the old Tzimisce core disciplines. I can't remember now. What were the core disciplines?
Vicissitude, Dominate, and Auspex. Hold on.
Yeah, I think it was Auspex, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Vicissitude and Auspex, and I believe Dominate. I'm not 100% on that though.
So again, by making Vicissitude Protean and Dominate amalgams, which makes sense because it's that idea that you're dominating your flesh or someone else's flesh with flesh crafting. It just, that feels right, and that again draws from the kind of the new way of how disciplines work in some respects. And I think going with animalism, that echoes some of the setup of actually the Ventrue in Vampire the Requiem, because they have animalism and dominate, and they have whatever the other one is. They mostly have I want to say they have fortitude. But the reason I say that is because it reinforces the Tzimisce as this as the classic Dracula archetype, which could control animals and shapeshift and dominate people with their mind. So it really doubles down on that theme. And this is why I really need to talk to Justin Achille about how he's approaching V5 is informed by how he worked on Vampire the Masquerade and Vampire the Requiem, because the DNA in V5 is from both of those, and if you deny that, you're a fucking fool.
I think the kind of main point here for me was kind of to try and push that idea is like V5 had a very rocky start, and the new way that it is now going with this new companion is that it's removing that whole rocky start, and it's kind of going on with a better way of looking at things which were not well dealt with in the first.
Yeah, right.
And the way that they've done it is actually really, really cool. And they are bringing in these really cool ideas and making it more accessible.
So Nick, sorry, yeah, go on, Nick.
Yes.
Nick, what was the clan merit that you were?
It was Cryptolek. Cryptolek, which is the Ravnos get, which I think it's awesome because you basically get to kind of design this this way of like communicating with your fellow coterie members using like forms of like whether it be like hand signs or like thieves can't style language, and I just with like the ability to kind of like hide your words within other words. I think it's one of the oldest tricks in the book that we've seen, like even like in history that we've seen as like super successful, and being able to encrypt your message, like what you're saying as you speak it is it's fun. It's a really fun implication.
It's based off of an old merit call, or not merit, combo discipline called doublespeak.
Nice.
Which basically does the same thing, but it's now clan based, which is fantastic.
That's cool. Really cool.
Sorry,
I've not read these merits fully, but I really like the name of the Tremere one, multi-level lawkeeper. That's just so good because multi-level marketing is just cult-like. And in fact, that's a topic for another day, is to talk about a cult that Sam learned of recently called is it Distendia or something? Dissidia or something. It's nuts, but that's another discussion, side tangent, but that's great. Crystal, you've read this mostly a bit more than I have. Is there another merit that you really like in there?
Oh, I don't have it out in front of me. Hold
on.
Okay.
Do you know which clan it's for?
Questions.
Do you know which clan it's for? And I've got it here.
No, hold on.
That's all right.
I don't really have a favorite.
I know Pete has opinions about this book, so do we want to wait till Pete turns up?
Well, yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, Pete's got strong opinions.
There's a lot of coterie mechanics that are really cool. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, there are a lot of coterie mechanics that are pretty cool.
Yeah, they're definitely. It's weird because you have some that are very like overt and like flashy, and like, oh, that's really fun to play on. And then there's just a lot of useful ones, like I think the Zimichi, you all get like 2 willpower back at the beginning of every night. You have that clan merit, which not necessarily. Yeah, it's here we go. Old World Hospitality. At the beginning of each of a session, any members of the coterie who stayed at a Zimichi's Haven when the previous session concluded restores an additional superficial willpower damage.
Cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, which is like nothing, flashy or anything. It's nothing like doublespeak, but it's super useful.
I'll tell you what's really cool in here.
Pushes people into a certain that allows you to play that more social mechanic as well. It's like with those cool things who are very much like when I play it, like I'm very much new to the World of Darkness and the way the World of Darkness plays. So when I run it with a lot of people who are au fait with the D&D aspect of running in and beating the fuck out of people, shall I say? So giving them the option to actually then go out there and go, yeah, I'm going to do more social stuff because I know when I come back the next day, my social stuff is not going to be bad. So you can play off that aspect a little bit better and kind of push the bard aspect. And it's kind of, I think for me, being a new player within the darkness, trying to get people to understand how it actually really works in a real life situation, turning over from their traditional D&D ideas and having the ability to that kind of bringing that willpower back allows them to maybe push those things a little bit further. because I know I've had a few games where people have run down the street and started murdering people in the middle of the night. It's like, you're doing it in front of police officers. This is going to fuck you up. Please don't. And they go,
Mhm.
give
I
them
was-
that's like a little bit of recovery might help.
Mhm.
Other than the princess suddenly then comes down on them and just puts them into torpor and, well, they're asleep for 500 years. And then you're going to play Cyberpunk 2577 Vampire.
When you were talking about this
we were
before,
talking about earlier.
I actually had a pretty good idea on how you could probably convert over V5 into a cyberpunk setting.
Oh yeah, I think it's primed for it, and it'd be really easy. And actually, that's what I was going to talk about, is the fact that we've also got in here rules for mortals, which is awesome, because I think actually the interesting thing about having rules for mortals is mortals was always kind of an afterthought in classic WoD, really, until later, and until recently for 20th anniversary, we have Ghost Hunters coming up, which is awesome.
Yes.
Anyway,
So excited.
so the fact we've got mortals is really good, because coming to that point about the idea of, like, now we've got Cyberpunk Red, we've got Cyberpunk 2077. Can we relook at the Cyberpunk setting and do the future World of Darkness, but from where we are now with Vampire, with a updated version of Vampire, and bringing those themes in? You know, start with the mortal template here, and all it takes is to look at all those interesting disciplines and how the discipline mechanics work, and certain merits, and a lot of them can easily be cast into being cyberware. You know, different mods and so forth, like astral projection. Aren't you just going on the net and jacking in, that kind of thing? So I think it'd be quite interesting to fully explore that. I think we're a bit stuck for time for looking at that. But that's my suggestion.
And I would love.
Go
ahead, Crystal.
Sorry, as I say, I did find my favorite clan coterie merit now.
Right.
Oh. All right. So it's contextual contact, which is the Nosferatu one.
Yeah.
So yes, essentially it allows you to up your entire coterie's ability to leverage each other's contacts, which is really cool. I love the networking aspect of Vampire. I always have. And so, like, the Nosferatu being able to up that and play around with that makes Nosferatu so much more interesting to play.
Yeah,
definitely.
This is one thing I've always loved with the WoD and the Chronicle stuff is the social interaction, and if you can push that social interaction and make it even more webby and dark and shit, then go for it. So.
And the other thing I was going to say is we've also got, like, right at the end, there's a errata and rules update, and there's actually good, like, designers' comments on it. One of them I found really funny, because we did that by mistake when we did the first ever V5 actual play, because we did the first one for Dark Days Radio. Was we used compulsions for messy criticals when you should use them only for bestial failures, and now that's actually just taken as, no, you do that now, that's a rule. You can use compulsions for either. So I'm happy that we spearheaded that change in V5.
How I always played it, and it's like now
and I'm happy that they've also boosted the blood potency. Why that's interesting is because it makes you wanting to do blood surge, and thus shit happens and someone gets ripped apart. All for what is a free download, and only either they do it as POD or you can actually buy it, like as a physical item. That's not me being biased, given that I've written now for a V5 book. That's me being deadly honest. Like, it's
behind it, and they've giving it us for free.
I'm also going to say the art's awesome in there, and while it keeps to the new style of V5, I think it refines it and also aligns a bit more with the art style from Onyx Path as well. So there's kind of like a feeling of of convergence to really find that voice of V5 within the art. And then there's also like, I think there's also like powers which for within Dominate and so forth that aren't tied to any particular clan. Like, you know, if you've got Dominate, you can get this power. So it's not tied to a clan, like you can only learn it if you're like a Zemache or a Salubri. So, you know, there's a lot in there to get a lot of good use out of. Right, okay. I think that covers V5 Companion. We really don't have time to talk about what I think we were also going to say to keep this a short and sweet episode to promote Virtual HorrorCon, which was how you could mostly do Cyberpunk 2077 as a merge with World of Darkness V5 to create something. But the fact is, it's mostly dead easy. We'll talk about it some other time because I'm playing a lot of Cyberpunk 2077 via Stadia right now, and it's dead fun. Despite glitches on consoles. Is there anything else to say? Have we forgotten anything?
If just to everyone, you know, buy tickets, go to VHC through February 19th through the 21st, and you know, I just want to say thank you for having me on the show. This podcast has been a favorite of mine. I listen to this all the time at work, so I appreciate the content that you put out there.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we're going to be 12 years old this year.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's great. And you know, I'll leave you off with a little anecdote because I always love telling this when people ask me about Darker Days Radio. So the only reason you could honestly say I'm actually with Gehenna right now is because of this podcast. Because this podcast was the first podcast to tell me about Gehenna Gaming. At PAX Unplugged, which I listened to, I think maybe a week or two go before PAX Unplugged, and it caused me to go check them out and go play V5 with them, and that's how this journey started. So who knows if VHC would have even been around if it wasn't for DDR.
That's really very cool. Nice. Thank you. Yes. So, as Nick said, yeah, you can go to www.virtualhorrorcon.com. You can find out about everything going on. You can sign up to be a games master, even if you want to run a horror game. You can find out about the sponsors. You can find out about code of conduct, because Virtual HorrorCon, Gehenna Gaming, Darker Days Radio, and Karen Comforts have strict rules on code of conduct, which form the backbone of how we run demos and events. You know, you can contact directly. There is some VHC merch, so you can get hold of stickers and also t-shirts that have the cool logo on by a wonderful designer who I forget the name of right now, that designed the excellent logo, but you can find out more about that on Virtual HorrorCon and find out about the list of games and panels and workshops and more. But more details will be coming, you know, as we in the run-up over the next couple of weeks to the event. Obviously, if you want to find out more about Darker Days Radio, you can contact us at darkerdaysradio@gmail.com. You can find us at www.darker-days.org. You can find us on Instagram at Darker Days Radio and also on Twitter at Darker Days Radio. And you can find us on WordPress, where we put up stuff that doesn't fit a podcast format, which is toy soldiers when we paint them, but I'm not really painting much right now. I've got some scenery to paint for Necromunda, and I just haven't done it yet because I've been busy writing. But that will turn up on there soon enough.
Painted an angry dwarf.
Obviously, if you want to listen to some folklore stuff, David, they can go over to the Drunk Storyteller.
The drunk. Oh yes, this is actually something that has not actually been said on Darker Days Radio yet. I've been promoting you massively on my own thing, but yeah, no, I've just started up my own podcast, The Drunken Storyteller. Go listen to me tell drunk stories about folklore and shit from all across the world. It's not just anything; it's literally all folklore across the world. Go listen to me on all your podcast areas.
You just put the 4th episode, right?
Sorry?
You just put out your 4th episode, right?
I just put out my dragons. I talk about dragons and shit. Literally shit. Not me talking shit. I'm literally talking about shit. So it's dragons and shit in a literal sense.
And we'll be definitely, Crystal, we'll be trying to organise finally to get ready to recording episode 2 of Dread Cassette, because Sam has set up the Twitter for it. So this is us talking about
that was cool.
Pure horror media. So that's film, TV, books. So it's not about gaming, really. Other than my
try not to talk about gaming.
We not talk about gaming. No, nothing about gaming. And so that'll be out. And yeah, I think that's about it. Other than I ran some more Soulbound tonight. That was the only gaming thing I did. I ran. That's been fun. I was running Soulbound as pure investigative horror, and it's been working so far. So we really need to run.
Soulbound does work if you can play it. It works well as a horror system.
We need to run it on the stream at some point finally. But I've got in my head a campaign now fully forming for it, because basically what I'm doing is a trial for it. But anyway, enough of that. That's the episode. Go to Virtual HorrorCon. Crystal,
hold on,
what do you want to promote?
Yes, Pip System Primer. The last one, which was Cryptids, is actually out on Drive-Thru RPG. You actually play cryptids. You don't fight against them. You actually are them. So, yes. It's cryptids doing cryptid things.
Crystal, you need to run that on our stream.
I will definitely run a Cryptids Pip game sometime, anytime, whenever we want to do that.
My folk horror shit. My folk horror channel has a stream. Let's do it.
You could play as Tooms from X-Files. You know, Mr. Stretchy. Oh, that'd be gross.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Be the Mothman.
Yeah,
there is so we didn't actually do like specific cryptids. Instead, for the archetypes, we did like generalized archetypes, and then you can specialize when you pick one. So like you can actually do like an animal type of cryptid, and then you can play Mothman.
Excellent.
We need so much. Anyway, let's Chris, go
finally, we put out last week on Gehenna Gaming's Twitch. We are back to running. David's back to running for us. Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, the Enemy Within campaign. We just did episode 6, so please check that out. It's fun, and because it's not a sponsored one, we swear a lot and do things which are really not approved.
Seamen are our friends.
I appreciate it.
But yeah, we'll be looking to do some stuff, because I think because the Forsaken Player's Guide is out for Wrath and Glory, I think we will be wanting to return to the Gilead sector with a bit of a change up for the away team at some point. That'll be good. You want to play a crew? Yeah, I know. But that is everything for now. I think the next time you hear from Dark Days Radio at this rate will be Virtual HorrorCon or Dread Cassette when we get that out, because this is coming out very, very soon. So literally a day or so after after we've recorded this. So for now, thank you again, Nick, for talking about Virtual HorrorCon 2021, and thank you, Crystal, and thank you, David, for co-hosting, and thank you for listening. And we'll see you at Virtual HorrorCon. So for now, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Keep it spooky.
This has been an episode of Darker Days Radio. Special thanks to Occam's Laser for the intro, outro, and new bumper music from their hit album, 9 Circles. Check out the rest of their work at occamslaser.bandcamp.com.